We're moving on to the second variation, the pattern, where I said there is a topic part, and then there is a closing part, and the parts in between of the sentence is jumbled. Now, for a pattern like this, what you ideally need to do is identify the subject, identify the action, and then connect and create the remaining parts. Couple of language components like idioms or just phrases come in handy in this particular pattern. Let's understand that when we attempt these question types. The first one that we have is the Constitution of India mandates. So that's the topic part that is given to us, and then the parts in between P, Q, R and S are jumbled, and then we have the closing part, welfare will be promoted. Now there are various strategies that you can apply to a pattern like this. One, you can go from the last part, seeing which is the part that sequences or attaches itself to the closing part, or we could ask questions, that's another way, or we could look for idioms or phrases which we are familiar with and know that this, like for example, Q has to be followed by R, or P has to be followed by Q because of that idiomatic expression or a phrase. So let's see if we are able to find and apply any of those strategies that we just discussed. So the Constitution of India mandates what? What does it mandate? Primary duty? Mandates must convince? Mandates the welfare of the people? Or mandates a party seeking power? We don't know. Let's understand that the Constitution of India mandates what? Normally something that answers the question what or who is a subject, right? So when I look at the subject here, it either has to be a party seeking power or the welfare of the people. It has to be R or S, right? So let's go with option R and see if the sequence follows through. The Constitution of India mandates the welfare of the people as what? As the must? Can't be. As the a party seeking? Can't be. So it has to be as the primary duty of the government, and must convince the people that they're. Then where do I fit in S, a party seeking power? It doesn't make sense, right? So let's go back. So we see the Constitution of India mandates the welfare of the people as the primary duty of the government, and a party seeking power must convince the people that their welfare will be promoted. So that's one way of looking at it. The second way you could say is, which is the part which will connect to the closing statement, right? Convince the people that their what? If you look at Q, convince the people that their what? That their welfare will be promoted. So if I go by the closing part, I know Q has to be my last statement. Now always keep looking at your options. If you look at your options, out of 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, the only option where Q is the last part is option 1, right? And let's go back and follow the first strategy that we applied. The Constitution of India mandates what? The welfare of the people. R. So I know that both of these strategies that I applied goes ahead and gives me the answer as option 1. So for the first one, what we've simply done is we've just asked questions. We've asked questions, we've identified the subject, and then we've identified the action, and then we connected and created the remainder of the sentence. So what is the sequence? The Constitution of India mandates the welfare of the people as the primary duty of the government, and a party seeking power must convince the people that their welfare will be promoted. And the answer is option 1. Let's look at another question of the same pattern to understand this better. Here we have the strongest point in favor of who? Favor of, again I need the subject, right? Remember questions who or what? Answer always or point out to the subject. So favor of equal, favor of justice is done, favor of basis, favor of democracy. Democracy, here is my subject. So the strongest point in favor of democracy is that everyone is what? Again, you know what democracy is, right? For the people, of the people, all of that. So having said that, which is talking about being equal for everybody, right? We understand that about democracy. So is that everyone is equal in the eyes of law, and you can automatically connect and create the remainder of the system. And justice is done on the basis of merit rather than on religion, caste, or status. So here we go. Again, we've applied the strategy of identifying the subject, who or what answers you. That's the question that answers you or points you to the subject, right? So the strongest point in favor of who? Favor of democracy is that everyone is what? Equal in the eyes of law. And justice is done on the basis of merit rather than on religion, caste, or status. So which is the sequence that gives you that? S. So that would be option 4, right? The strongest point in favor of democracy is that everyone is equal in the eyes of law, and justice is done on the basis of merit rather than on religion, caste, or status. Do you see that? So for patterns like this, it's pretty simple. Identify the subject, identify the action, connect and create the remainder of the sentence. Let's look at one more. If the government wants what? If the government wants new entrants, and if the government wants to change the rules, okay, if the government wants, make sure the preposition to is missing, so I can't add that with are. If the government wants the game, it should allow new entrants and make sure that there is, okay, again, so it's going all over the place now. But if you look at those sentences, is there a phrase or an idiom where, which is helping you connect? New entrants and to change the rules of the game. Rules of the game, right? Have you noticed that? Rules of the game is a idiom, right? Rules of the game. You play by the rules of the game. It's an idiom. It's a set expression. So having said that, Q and S. So I know that S has to follow Q. Now from my options, which are the options that where Q is followed by S, which is option 3, right? S is following Q, and then I have option 5. S is following Q. These are the only 2 options. So I've limited my options. I have to choose between 3 and 5. Now let's go back, try and apply which one seems logically right. So if I go by 3, if the government wants, and then it starts with R. If the government wants, make sure the preposition to is missing. So that cannot be my sequence right there. I've eliminated 3. So it has to be 5. Let's go back and look at it. If the government wants to change the rules of the game, it should allow who? It should allow new entrants and make sure that there is a level playing field. So there you go. You've unraveled it and you've arrived at the answer, which is option 5, QSPR. Great. So some of the strategies that we've applied here, as mentioned earlier, is we've identified the subject, always asking the question who or what. Then we've identified the action, we've connected and created the remainder of the sentence. We've also looked for, in this particular example, we saw an idiomatic expression, rules of the game. We limited our options and we looked at both the options and saw grammatically what would be a logical fit, right? So here ends jumble sentences for you. Only by practice you would learn to identify keywords or clue words in each sentence, and it becomes easier for you to get to the answer quickly without wasting time. So remember the strategies that we discussed in the beginning. If you don't have descriptive clue words or sequential clue words or cause and effect or contrasting clue words, always look for keywords highlighted within each sentence, which will help you answer and connect the remainder of the sentence. Ask questions. Also, don't waste time reading the entire sentence. Identify the topic sentence first, which is always the easiest part, and then is when the challenge begins. So, but for variations like this, where we looked at a different pattern, identify the subject, identify the action, and then connect and create the sentence.
Right? The author has pointed an, have the indefinite article and there. The only option that I can connect that link with is Q. accusing. And look at my options. What's the one that is giving me that option? 1. QSPR. The author has pointed out or pointed an accusing finger at the and then the whole sequence, just to make sure that this is the sequence, right? If the sequence is right, just read through. The author has pointed an accusing finger at the Muslim intelligentsia and the dominant members of the community who maintain a stoic silence over the bizarre happenings in Kashmir. The idea again, this is an easy one, but you could have other types of article usage or preposition usage which you need to apply for, right? As long as you're aware, it becomes easy. Let's look at the next one. Greed is regarded as, and then I have all the options: possible, ruinous, and because it has destructive effects, immoral behavior on other people. I don't think any one of you are going to be able to identify the clue. See, remember I said knowledge on vocabulary is also very useful, right? So look at some words. Any word that you don't understand, any word that you don't follow from the context, let me point it out for you. Now, if you look at ruinous, right, and then you have a synonym hint word, like I said, and, right? What's ruinous is an adjective. It comes from the word ruin, which means what? Destruction. Which means P and R have to go together, right? P and R have to go together. Which are the options that give me that? A and B. So let's look at it. Greed is regarded as, A starts with possible, ruinous, and. Or should we go with B? Greed is regarded as immoral behavior, right? Greed is regarded as what? Immoral behavior. Why? Because it has possible, ruinous, and. So basically what we've done here is if you know the meaning of ruinous, you know that, and if you've paid attention to the synonym hint word, and you know R has to follow P, right? R has to follow P. The first option, though it does, logically it doesn't answer our question, right? So greed is regarded as what, like Bluffmaster very loudly pointed out? Immoral behavior. Why? Answering the question again, another connector, right? Why? Because. So there is a cause and there is a reason why this is so, right? What have we done here? Focused on clue words, which is the adjective ruinous, understanding its meaning, paying attention to the hint word, and we know that P has to follow R. We look at the options, eliminate the wrong answer option, because we are also applying the strategy of asking relevant questions to form a logical sequence. So the only sequence that gives me that is B, SQPR.